Thank you guys for coming, and thank you most of all to Ward and his belief in the cultural district with this $25,000 grant, which is the first grant we have received from the Beveridge Foundation. It will in part fund creation of an artist database in Springfield, which will focus a lot on artists of color and artists working out of their homes that may not be connected to traditional networks of artists or traditional opportunities all over, you know, not just Springfield, but all over the Valley and all over Massachusetts. I think this will really hit hard on one of the tenets of the cultural district, which is making an economic impact for our artists. We have a $50 million impact institutionally every year on the city of Springfield, but independent artists do so much more than that, livening up our streets, increasing walkability and livability, and just kind of brightening up spaces, which are all things that we want to see more of in the downtown and in the cultural district. Those are my quick remarks, and with that, I will hand it over to the chair of the board, Eileen McCaffrey.
Thank you. Thank you, Morgan. It is a proud moment. This is a very proud moment, a proud day for the cultural district. That's why I wanted our former chair, Russ Piotr, to be here, because it comes from leadership, it comes from vision, and so I wanted to thank you for that, because you are remarkable. So Molly and I took over the reins, and we are so, so proud to be in the city of Springfield, because leadership and vision is very important to the future of not just the people standing in this room, but everyone's kids, and I know that the mayor is with me in this, that changing outcomes for children in Springfield so they can become the future leaders and be carrying on all of this important work, that is at the center and the core of what we're all about. So I wanted to thank, of course, we're going to say thank you to Ward, because the Beveridge Foundation and what they do and their ability to really make a difference in the lives of organizations like ours. This is a profound and important moment. But before we do that, I want to introduce and have our next speaker be our mayor, and the Honorable Mayor Sarno as an arts advocate. For those of you who saw him in the paper this summer playing the piano. And
terribly, by the way.
it was so beautiful. But you know,
if it gets another 25,000, sure.
But what you may not know about that moment is that I was here with about 50 kids who were Springfield Public School kids doing different kinds of band and music. And when they found out that their mayor, who's got a really important job, was going to start at the beginning by learning to play the piano, they were so moved by that. They all said, at the moment, they said, exactly. They said, why would he do that? It's going to be so embarrassing. And I said, you know, because our mayor sees he sees what it's like to engage. You go, you do, you be, you put yourself out there and you do it, and people will support you and surround you. So you know what they did? They lined up and they had a band, the NOLA marching band, and they stood behind the mayor and they thought to themselves, he is doing this for us. So I thank you, Mayor Sarno, because your message of solidarity, of inclusion, and also a vision. Where are we going to go? How do we get there? So I'm very proud to introduce our mayor, and thank you so much.
Thank you, Eileen, for those kind words. She said them just the way I wrote them. First of all, to Morgan, to Molly, Eileen, to Russ, Stanley Beveridge, Ward Caswell. I really wanted to be here for all of you, and especially Stanley Beveridge and Ward Caswell. When I took over my old South End Community Center, there were trying times, challenging times, and without question, Stanley Beveridge was there to make sure for youth development and continues to be there. This focus on building on the artists, and I'm going to piggyback on what Morgan says, this translates into economic development dollars, and it's important. People want a vibrant city. They want a city where they can be entertained. They want a city that has arts and culture, and we see it, and I know next week we'll be making a big announcement pertaining to that. But I just want to be very thankful to Ward, Mr. Caswell, and the Stanley Beveridge Foundation. Without question, you've always been there, and this initiative, the first grant for the Cultural Center District, is huge and very generous, and your continued belief and investment in the city of Springfield is really appreciated. And if you want me to play the piano again, a
got a little tin cup
Yeah,
out there.
a little Liberace or Billy Joel, I am not. But I'm more than happy to embarrass myself if it's going to bring in more money for opportunities for our young people in the arts and culture. So thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thinking of saxophone.
And then last but certainly not least, I would like to ask Ward to say a few words. I am so grateful that you met with me this past, June or July, just to sit down for lunch. And I had a couple of ideas, and neither of them were the artist database. But you said, I think that in Springfield, especially in downtown Springfield, there is an artist making something that we've never seen before, and I would love to help fund bringing that work to life and to light in downtown Springfield. So
You remember that?
I do.
Wow. So I'm used to just babbling on and no one listens or remembers it, including myself. That's good. I look at Springfield as the heart of the region. I look at the region and what the strengths are, and first and foremost, we have the best topsoil in the world. We do. Hadley Loam, it's the best. And that's what made us an agricultural mecca that then gave us the money to be an industrial mecca, and then that moved on, and we had some tough times. And I think if we look at what we've been and don't think about where we're going, that's a mistake. We have to honor our history. But if you look at where we're going and what it's going to come from, it's our other great strength, which is the people, right? And the people that have had a variety of experiences at a lot of different levels. We've had massive amounts of trauma and racial injustice and all sorts of criminal activity and things like that that really feel like it's the past. Certainly a lot of people are still suffering, but from suffering comes strength. And I think what we're going to see is a city that reemerges with a new sense of strength and self. And how's that going to come out? It's going to come out through the arts, right? And so finding an organization that is going to find and promote and encourage those would-be artists who may not be classically trained or who may have taken great classes here, the community music school, I think that's going to help put Springfield on the map regionally, nationally, and globally. And so anything we can do to help with that, we're happy to do. Talking a second ago with a fellow, one of the things we look for in any organization to determine the viability of that organization, number one is the strength and virally communicative vision of the executive director. And that's what we've seen in you. And it's true. The vision was clear, and what we really like to see is when that vision is repeated by everybody in the organization or associated with the organization. And that's something we see as well. Without that, you're never going to make it. With that, you got a chance. So with that and some money, we think you can go a lot farther. And just to be clear, it's the Beveridge Family Foundation. Frank Stanley Beveridge, I got to get that Frank, his first name in there. Founded it years ago, and I am just the shepherd. I just move it along. So it has nothing to do with me. It's everything to do with our board, and we're happy to support. So when Frank Stanley Beveridge started his company, Stanley Home Products, he had come out of Fuller Brush, and this was back in the 20s, and he wanted to find a better way to do business. And back in the day, it was going door-to-door sales, schlepping mops and brooms. And he wanted to find a better way. So he's trying to find a place to have the company. And he's driving around New England, and he drives into Westfield, and he notices on all the bridges in and out of town, there's flower boxes. And he says, any town that has that attention to detail, that's where I'm going to do it. So he starts the company there. Long story short, company does really well. And he continued to invest in Pioneer Valley. The plant was in East Hampton, headquarters were in Westfield, and Springfield is the hub of Pioneer Valley, right? Beginning, end, and everything in between. This is where you have to be if you're going to have a strong urban core, which, the way we structure our economic societies, you have to. So Springfield, as we said earlier, has had ups and downs. And we think what's going to be the way that Springfield really breaks out is by giving a voice to its people, right? It has a diverse population that has a lot of stories to tell. And how are they going to tell those stories? They're going to tell them through the arts. So when I met with Morgan, the executive director of the Springfield Cultural District, and heard what her vision was for helping that voice get exposure in Springfield, we just had to get on board. And when she talked about the different things that she wanted to do, some of them were probably easier to raise money for than others. Well, we like to fund the things that are more difficult to fund, right? Stuff that you can't have a road rally for, T-shirts and stuff like that, because we are sort of the quiet money behind the scenes there. So we're happy to support it. We think Springfield will continue to be the hub. I think what it means to be the hub of a district changes over time, but at its heart, it is where you think of going when you're trying to get something done with other people, right? So you're going to have infrastructure that is focused on that hub. And sure, we can all dial up, and I can go right now, and I can push a button, and I can be FaceTiming with somebody in Germany or Singapore in 20 seconds. I don't do a lot of deals that way. Right? I don't make a lot of long-term decisions with that. In fact, don't even remember most of those conversations that you have electronically. It's face-to-face that matters. You and I are going to remember each other because we're face-to-face, right? And so you want to have a place where you go face-to-face, and that's your hub.
Sure. So, I mean, I think the grant is meant for two things. The first part is for hiring a grant writer, which will immediately increase our capacity for programming as we can get more funding to make those things happen. It also frees up my time a little bit to be able to spend more time with artists and organizations, kind of growing the cultural district even more at a faster pace. And then the second part of the grant, that's for creation of an artist database, I think is really important because up until now, we've kind of relied on other networks, including my own, of artists to fulfill RFPs or calls for art, but we really want to focus going into the future on an equitable approach. So really inventorying artists, especially those hiding in the dark corners, is really important to moving that mission forward.